it's time for the old FJ's oil change, and because it's an '07, everything is very accessible. I usually change the oil out about every 5,000 miles. I got about 4,500 on it right now, and I change it early only because the last oil change was all the way back in 2019, so the oil is a bit old, so it never hurts to put some newer stuff in. Anyway, so the filter is in a nice location. It's easy to get to. It's got a nice little built-in drain. And what I usually do with the drain to go ahead and catch that when I take it loose, take one of these bottles here and actually wedge it down in there, and then put the actual spout here around the little nipple that's coming off of the bottom of this thing here. So let's get that into place. I need 2 hands. Anyway, I just go ahead and put the bottle down there, put the nipple inside of it, and that way when I take this off, it catches any of the excess. And then when I'm done, I make sure I clean this all up, spray a little bit of degreaser back down in there, remove the bottle, and there's a little rubber cap that basically protects that nipple down there. I usually use K&N, however, a buddy of mine, being a nice guy, picked me up a different filter, so we'll put that one in for the next oil change. It's still a full synthetic and stuff, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I'll show you guys what that is when I put it in. So let's go ahead and get this off and get the oil draining. And on the bottom it's kind of neat because I had that drain plug that I made a video on. I've been using those drain plugs for moto, oh my god, since the late 1980s on one of the first vehicles I had. And it just makes it nice. You don't have to keep taking out that plug and worry about stripping out the hole or it getting stuck or cross-threaded or something like that. And at the same time, you don't have to take a bath in oil. So anyway, let's go underneath and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I really like these drain pans. I picked this one up at Harbor Freight Tools for next to nothing. It's nice because it holds quite a bit of oil. You can take this directly to the auto parts place and recycle the oil. And when you take the little plug out of here, they got a place that you can put it in just to hold it. And the pan is a good size, and I don't know, it's just a lot nicer than having to put it into another one and pour it into containers and everything else. So this is what we'll use. Once again, you've seen me use this pretty much everywhere on all my fluid changes. So let's get this underneath the vehicle. Okay, so I did run the vehicle for a while, got it nice and warm. I go ahead and take this off. One of the guys, this is missing. There we go. Alright, and underneath here is the drain valve. Okay, so I basically take this little cover off that I use just to keep it dust free. And you can see this is the valve here, and it's got a little lever right here. And all that you do is you lift up on the lever for this one here. They're all a little bit different, but this one here, you actually lift up on the lever and you turn it, and there goes your oil. My hands are completely clean, which is nice for a change. So I'm going to let this drain, and actually let it drain for quite a while. I like to go ahead and make sure pretty much as much of the old oil is out as possible before I put the new stuff in. So this will drain. I'll come back and I'll close that, wipe it off, put the little cover back on. I do have a new cover for this, just because the old one is, well, 15 years old, and it is kind of worn out. So I'll put a new one of those on. But this is the big one here, guys. These valves are the greatest thing. You just do it. I know the stream is small than if you have a big plug, but it doesn't take that much longer to drain. And of course, I'm in no rush, so I'm going to let this drain for quite a while. So we'll go back up top, and we'll go ahead and take out the oil filter. But that's it, man. You just lift up on the safety, give it a rotation. Inside is a stainless steel surgical ball valve, and that's it. They sell them in all kinds, straight, flush, L-shaped, and they're just the greatest things in the world, man. It makes this oil change kind of pleasant. You don't get a handful of oil anymore, or catch a plug, or worry about stripping out the hole. Yeah, well, that's draining underneath there. Here's all the ordering information, part numbers, all that neat stuff. I had placed an order for some parts through a Toyota dealership that was having a sale, so I decided to go ahead and grab this at the same time. It's a lot softer, more pliable than the old one. Is kind of, well, it's kind of crunchy, and it's kind of stiff and kind of feels brittle. And I don't want to lose it because I don't want anything chipping up inside there. getting kicked up from the street as you're driving and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this now. I'll just recycle that one, and we'll get this one installed. As far as oil goes, I'm a big Castrol guy, so I like the Castrol Edge full synthetic 530. And this is what a buddy of mine bought me. He said, hey, since you use synthetic oil, you might want to try one of these, Fram Ultra Synthetic. I know there's a bunch of views on Fram and stuff out there. This is actually built pretty darn good. I looked at the construction stuff on it. To me, it's right up there pretty close to Canon, which I normally use. But I'm going to go ahead and put this one on. And anyway, that should do the trick for about another 5,000 miles. So we'll get that on there today. Inside this, because it says mix, I already have, this is kind of what was left over every time I put the oil in, even though this is 5 quarts. Yep, 5 U.S. quarts. I always substitute 1 full quart with the, well, I'll show you. I always substitute 1 full quart with this stuff right here. Lucas Synthetic Oil Stabilizer. 1 full quart replaces 1 full quart of oil. And also, inside this is 1 container of Z-Max. I really like Z-Max. I've had a lot of luck with it. And I treat the engine with Z-Max about every 30,000 miles. And that way it recoats. Z-Max soaks in the metal, makes it super slick. Where the Lucas adds kind of like a climbing agent, a pitchiness to the oil to make it stick to even the upper parts of the engine when the engine's not running, if it's just sitting there, which mine does sometimes because I use the motorcycles to go to work or something like that. So by having all that already mixed up in here, I'll dump this in first, and then I'll use a brand new one of these to go ahead and top it off to the full amount. And whatever's left over, again, it'll probably be right about here. I'll just store for the next oil change and put that towards it. So I always end up with a little bit left over because of the Lucas. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As far as the filter goes, let's see here. What do I got? I got a 1-inch socket, which works out well. And the nice thing about this is it's a nice, easy way to go ahead and get that old filter off, or even crank it on a bit. So you just loosen it up. I know you guys know this. It's just nice to use the little nut that's on here. That's why I really dig these type. Otherwise, at the end of the world, I have a whole set of different size oil filter wrenches and stuff on here, sockets for it. So I can always use that. But the one built into the K&Ns are actually pretty nice. You can see down here, since I broke the seal, it's already starting to drip down into the bottle. So we'll continue just taking that right off. Let it do its thing. There we go. And I'll just let that sit there. Right down to the bottle it goes. Sometimes I used to run a tube down into the pan, but this is a lot easier. Just to let one of these plastic bottles fill up and then dump it into the recycling bin later on. So I'll let that sit, get that cleaned out, and I'll take a walk away, maybe go make some coffee while the engine is actually draining down there. Later on when we go to put the oil in, I kind of like these. They fold up flat. I have a couple of them in a bag, and I keep them in my FJ in case I need it. I've got smaller ones that I keep with the motorcycles in case I ever need those. And the nice thing about it is when you're done using them, you can just toss them. So that's what we'll be using. Nice little filter here. And then when we're done with it, no cleaning, no making a mess, none of that stuff, just go ahead and toss it. Now, do you need this? Of course you don't. You can use a regular plastic funnel, but this is just something I happen to have, and I like to use it. Everybody has their own preference. Okay, and it's all clean, and it's nice and really smooth. Of course, we always put a little bit of oil on the new filter, and that's not to make it tighter seal. It's just to lubricate it, so as you're tightening it up on here, the seal doesn't tear, and that way it doesn't start a leak later on. And I just take one of these. We all know what they are. And I go down in the hole, make sure that's all cleaned out, make sure there's nothing else down in there. Okay, look at the other side. Okay, that's all nice and clean too. And then we're going to take this little rubber stopper here. A lot of them came with it. My original one got kind of crunchy and stiff, so I had a bunch of this stuff laying around, so I just happen to have the right size. So we'll go ahead and put this one on there. Even take out the dipstick, clean that off, just because it has a little bit of old oil on it, and that way when we put it in to check the new level, and we'll just see the fresh oil, and there'll be nothing residual on the dipstick. This basically what came out of the filter. That's quite a bit. That's why it's good to let this do all the catching. And the neat thing is the 07s, I'm not sure when they stopped it and relocated the filter underneath, but they're just so easy to get to, and it makes an oil change an absolute pleasure. In fact, it takes longer to film it than it does to actually do the job. Okay, some of the guys use old oil to lubricate the seal, which is fine. I mean, oil's oil, but since you have the fresh stuff, I don't see why you'd want to put anything old with contaminants and stuff in there. So we'll put a little bit in here. Once I start the vehicle and then recheck it, then I'll worry about trying to fill this. It's kind of hard anyway, since it goes in this position here. You really can't fill the filter up with oil, like if it mounted this way here. So it's got a flow back valve, and that way I can check the oil level after the car is running. So we'll get a little bit of fresh oil and stuff on here. I actually take a little bit of this oil also, and I put it on the metal part. It looks like a funnel, the receptacle that this filter goes to. I'll put a little bit on that also. It just never hurts. Getting down in here, some fresh oil, nice and clear. And when we're all done, we'll give this a wipe in here again. That'll be nice and clean up until the next one. Anything on my finger left over, what the heck, just put it right there. And you want to make sure that when you pull this off, any pooled old oil, it's good to get it out. Not that that's going to hurt anything, but you just want the fresh oil in there. So we'll go ahead and get this one on here. I went ahead and double check. Every filter is different depending on if you have a flat seal or if it's an O-ring or whatever. This one here says after it's hand tight, you go another 3/4 to 1 full turn, and that'll basically lock it into place. Again, I just always read that. Normally they're right on the filter. If not, they're in the box, and they're all a little bit different. This one's flat, and like I said, some have an O-ring. You know, a bottom of the line frame, yeah, they're not the greatest, but these here, if you take them apart, which I've seen a lot of videos on, they're built about the same way as everything else. As long as they have the proper stuff inside, a steel cage to prevent collapsing, flow back valves, a good spring. So there, that's hand tight. And then what we'll add is just a little piece of tape or something to mark it with to give us a clock position, because now that it's hand tight and the seal is making contact, we want to go another 3/4 to a full. And I like to get a good grip, so I still use one of these little rubber mats. I use 2 hands on this one. And here we go. Started here. 3/4 turn, almost to a full turn. Take the tape off, and that's good to go. I'll just make sure I wipe around there because I put a little bit of extra oil on the metal part. Give that a little bit of a wipe. It's all sealed up. Up top's done. All we'll have to do is add some oil from up here. Underneath, again, still an occasional drip. So I'm going to let that just sit and let all that stuff come down. Again, it's pretty important if you preheat your vehicle, letting it run for a little bit, and that way everything's nice and warm, the oil is thinner, and it drains and comes off the parts where you're trying to put the new oil in. Okay, the oil is the lifeblood of the engine. Make sure you change it. If I use regular oil, I used to change it at 3,000. Synthetic, I do it at 5,000. I don't care what the box says. Oh, this is a 10,000, this is a 15, this is a 20,000. Look, the oil isn't that expensive, and it's the lifeblood of the engine. If you don't want to be one of those guys that talks about, oh, I had a rod go pushing through the engine, or this blew, or that came apart, just change the oil, for God's sakes. You don't have to use additives if you don't want to, but at least use a good quality oil, change it, and always change the filter. I spent quite a few years over in England. That's what makes me laugh. They hate changing the oil once the extended warranty is done, or they'll change the oil and they'll never touch the filter. Taking one of their engines apart, it looks like Hershey syrup inside, and you ask one of them, hey, did you change the oil? Well, no, I just put a quart in. That's their comeback. It's the goofiest thing. I would never buy a used car that was owned by your typical, not all, but your typical English person, because they just cannot stand doing anything on the engines. So over here we're a little bit different. We don't mind taking care of them, especially most FJ owners. They love their vehicles, and again, keep that oil changed, and always put a good and decent filter on there. I did have somebody give me some STPs, I think it was 3 for $20 or 3 for $15 or whatever. I think I used one of them and then just gave the other 2 away. I didn't like the way they were built inside. I used the back of the actual owner's manual, and I just scribbled down what's been done, the mileage, stuff like that there. I don't know what happened here. This bled. But anyway, went to a different ink. So we're up to about 60,000. It's a 2007. Really, the miles are actually pretty low, but that's because I can go ahead and split the mileage up with other vehicles. And just want to take care of this one. So what we have here is, with every oil change, I always do some sort of treatment for the injectors. And in case you wondered, this was cleaned out, and I got a level here, and that's how much goes into the FJ as far as you know, this stuff here. It's just a little easier to put in and out. I keep this filled up, thrown up in the cabinet, so when I do want to use it, I can just dump it in. I don't have to worry about measuring. And I still like this bottle here because I'll use this for the motorcycle gas tanks and stuff. And I do buy this a gallon at a time, so I need to go ahead and fill this back up today. So that'll go in too with the oil change. Usually I rotate the tires, but I don't have to worry about that, only because the tires are fairly new. And they've just been rotated just about, I don't know, about 800 miles ago. So we'll crawl underneath. We'll go ahead and get this in, and we'll close that valve, and we can start putting the oil back in, and we're done. Alright, so the ball valve here, right here, has got just an occasional drip. Here goes one right now. So we're going to hold it and just close this off. It snaps in, making a positive click. And I used to take and just go ahead and get out any residual oil that's up in this tube here. Okay, gonna have a wipe. Again, these are awesome. You put them in once, and you never have to worry about them again. Then this little dust cover that I just happen to have, I'll put this on the little nipple. Yeah, that one fits a bit better. The other one was sticking down because, again, it was a little on the crunchy side, stiff. Some of the tabs are wore out. And what the heck, for $7 to protect what's up in there, you just can't go wrong. Underneath is now a piece of cake. You don't have to worry about handfuls of oil or any of that stuff, and you're pretty much done. If you weren't filming, you can pretty much do an oil change in about 10-15 minutes, depending on how long you let the oil drip. Okay, so there's exactly 3 quarts, and that one I have all mixed up with the Z-Max and the Lucas. And then just another 2.5 quarts out of here, and then I'll have some left over to put toward the next oil change. And I tell you, for Harbor Freight tools, I mean, other people make them too, but these little oil catch here, containers here, they're just the greatest thing. And when you're done, I just go ahead and hit them with a little bit of degreaser. Let that all drain in. And then when I'm done, I just kind of put it up there in that flat spot on top of the cabinets there, and it's out of the way until the next time I need it. It's actually a pretty neat little unit. I got the old paper funnel in here. Little paper towel in case I need it. This is all the premix. So we'll get this in first. This is a full 3 quarts of premix. Says 3. I need another 2.5, and it's a lot easier to pour one of these with one hand, steady your funnel, when it's only about half full versus bringing over a new one. As soon as you turn it, it starts to spill all over the place. So what I'm going to do is, believe it or not, I'm just going to transfer this funnel into here and go put exactly 2.5 quarts in here and then dump it in. Alright, that's all transferred. Get this back in here. And again, I just kind of like this because it's a lot easier to maneuver when it's not really that full. 3 went in. Here's another 2.5, bringing us to 5.5. Just in case, I'm not going to crinkle up the filter. Stick it back in here for now. We'll run the truck up. Get the oil filter filled up. Let it slosh around for a bit. And then we'll go ahead and check the level. There we go. Get the dipstick in. Pop the garage doors open and we can go ahead and start this. Do a quick check on the level of oil that's in there for now. Yeah, that looks right on. Man, it's nice when it's clean. And I don't know about you guys, but you can tell the engine just seems to run smoother with every fresh oil change, especially with a couple of additives. Okay, so oil changes, and especially the 2007 model with the oil filter up here, it's an absolute pleasure, and it just makes it so much nicer having the surgical stainless steel ball valve down there from Promoto for the plug. Again, you don't get a handful of oil and dropping the plug and having to go down the hole if you use one of the catches that I have. So now we've got flushed and drained brake fluid here. This is the cooling system just for the supercharger. That's been changed out. We got the oil changed. We had another video where we did the entire cooling system along with the thermostat and the hoses. And of course, fresh fluid. That self-explanatory. And the power steering, that was actually flushed and changed also. So that's pretty much it. And down underneath, rear differential, front differential, transfer case, and automatic transmission. So at 15 years old, this has all fresh fluids, which are always the life and blood of every mechanism that they're installed in. So guys, it's really important. Don't take the cheap way out unless you just can't stand your FJ. Actually, for any vehicle too. Tacomas, I mean, just I don't care if it's a Hyundai, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Just take care of the fluids, and the vehicle will take care of you, because they serve a purpose. They lubricate. They actually help protect. They keep seals soft with conditioners and all that stuff, and your vehicles will end up running a long, long time. If you take care of these, there's no reason why you can't get 500,000 miles out of these, especially this engine, the 4.0, which is virtually indestructible anyway. So that's it. I'll get this on YouTube, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.